welcome to the podcast. Today I have two wonderful, wonderful guests. I have Sebastian and I have Yasu. So, Sebastian, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm mainly interested in like economics, things that have to do with like finance, economics, the political affairs that are related to that, the and world economics, like identifying problems in that, not necessarily solving, but I mean being philosophical about them, right? You know, there's only so much one can do. I think that yeah, I'm more of like sort of someone that thinks about it than to act. But yeah, I mean, like that's sort of what I'm into. Yeah. And so yeah, like politics, philosophy, but mainly all of that sort of as it surrounds economics and world affairs.
He ties it all together. He makes his own theories. He comes out with solutions. He makes predictions. It's really amazing just listening to him talk. He processes all this stuff and comes out with like some magic. It's pretty cool. Very creative. Yasu, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Yasu, like you just said. I'd say I'm a history buff and I'm into politics. I like to talk about some business if the opportunity comes up, but I'd say that describes me pretty well.
All right. And you guys know me, Adam. I like business. I like personal development a bit too much. I like learning. I like cooking. I like film. And I like sports. So, but not watching them. I like playing them. So yeah, don't come up to me talking about last night's basketball game because I didn't watch it and I don't know who's playing. uh, yeah, so you like basketball, right?
Yeah, I'd say I'm a basketball fan. I pretty much watch any sport, to be honest with you, as long as it's not on ice. That I can't watch.
Skating's kind of cool. Hockey's cool. I like hockey. That's like
Yep, you can't be a hockey and a football fan. You got to pick one and stick with it.
true.
It's kind of being selfish if you watch everything.
Yeah, I pick your lane, kind of stick with it.
Yeah.
So gonna
Plus,
tie this into
it's too many games to follow. If you try to follow too many sports at the same time, you're not gonna get
just
anything done.
noise.
Yeah.
Sebastian, what about you?
Yeah, well, I feel it's hard to say because it's like there's so much sort of I would, but perhaps I don't have to, it's not at the top of my head, right? Like for example, there are certain things I forgot to say like that are really important that, like I mean, I guess we could say I mean, I'm not, I don't take action like, in the politics sense, or like I'm not really involved in politics, but I am involved in other areas like for example with investing, right, where I sort of come up with theories and put those theories to test, right? So but I mean, I of course my resources are very limited, right? So that's perhaps the reason why I may not be as active, right? Because generally most of our resources are limited. But I mean, I'm still in high school, and hopefully the future is bright. And
What grade are you in?
grade 11.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a 05?
Sorry, what?
You're an 05, 2005?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I'm 16. Yes, 2005. Yes, that's yeah.
The
So
quick maths.
yeah. Well, yeah. But so yeah. I mean, I'm still young, so the resources are still very limited. But yeah, I mean, as I get older and hopefully I would go to post-secondary, university or college or whatever it will be, and I'll have more resources then. But so yeah, I mean, it's sort of a starting point, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so I know you really like the book Poor Dad, no, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I always say Poor Dad, Rich Dad for some reason.
You like the poor part better, my friend? Come on, you're missing the point of the book.
Yeah, I think we can relate to that one more, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows that investing is overcomplicated. They like to overcomplicate the idea of investing and income that you don't have to work for. At the end of the day, it's basically having enough source of income that you don't work that offset all your expenses for the month. That's the idea of independent living. I feel like that book kind of sums it up in a neat way. Makes it easier for people to get into investing in general. I'd say if you're trying to get into investing, that's the first book you should read.
Yeah, it's kind of breaking like some beliefs that you might already have kind of from like current society's kind of conditioning to the average person. It's in my personal development lens that I look through things, that is, it's kind of an introduction to breaking some of those beliefs. And my top takeaway from the book is um money comes and goes, but being rich is forever. So it's actually
I
about
think
having
being
that.
wealthy is forever. Being
Yeah,
rich might not be permanent. Being wealthy is a different
yeah,
thing.
yeah, that's actually a better way of putting it. Yeah,
Yeah.
because if you know how to make money, then you can always make money.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, yeah, no, I've definitely, I think most people have heard about it. I'm yet to read it. I checked it, at the library. It has like 400 holds in it. So,
It's only
yeah,
like $7 on Amazon.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't plan on paying for it. I've never, well, I'd
Yeah,
rather borrow it. Yeah,
I'm not
because,
I'm not proud to say this, but most of the books I get usually pirate them on the internet. There's a site I have where
yeah, you
and,
could do
and
that.
yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's not a good thing, but I gotta like you said, resources are kind of limited. You gotta cut corners where you can.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
you could invest in your
Yeah.
mind.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will definitely read it because I mean, so many, to be informed. But I think from what I have heard from it so far, it sounds it sounds like something that's sort of more than what it is. In a sense, perhaps people give it more praise than it deserves.
I mean, it's not.
Possibly.
People, some people like to act like a very in-depth how to get rich, book. It's
Yeah,
not.
Yeah,
It's
something
not.
like that.
that's
Yeah.
not
It's
what
a,
it is.
it's
No.
supposed to be an introduction to the
Yes.
idea of
Yes.
owning assets, managing yourself, having
Yeah.
different types of income, and that's what it should be held as. Some people try to hold it as a manual of how to get money, how to get rich. If you think of it like that, you're gonna fail. That's not how it's gonna work. But like it's praised because anybody can read it and understand it. It's a very simple book. I think it's
just, yeah, like even that idea, like I have problems with, like the, acquire assets. Well, first of all, like what kind, I think he talks a lot about like gold, right, or like commodities instead of like the stock market. But
he talks
the
about owning businesses.
yeah, but my problem with that is that like that itself is well, it's very complicated because, well, like anything is very complicated. Certain things, like for example, real estate or businesses that like generate income, and you own the asset, and they appreciate with inflation and all of that, right? That's
Oh no, I get that, but it doesn't have to be something really big or anything. For example,
yes,
one of the
it's very
examples
big.
that he uses in the book is he bought a bunch. He would take a bunch of unused comic books from a local comic book store. He stored them all in his basement and basically had his little sister running kind of like a library for comics where kids could come in, pay 20 cents, and then read as much as they like for half an hour.
Yeah.
And in his head, he said that's the first type of business that I ran because that's money I'm getting in my sleep, which I thought was a good way to sum up the idea of having assets that you don't have to actually participate in to get money. Or like something as simple as a vending machine or a grocery store, something small that you can own that will make you money no matter what happens. It's kind of like a security blanket. If you lose your job, if something happens with your family, if you need money quick, there's always income coming into your bank account. That's the idea that he's trying to push. And I think that's a great thing to teach the next generation, because that's where the world is leaning. You can't depend on stable set. Sorry about that. Can't depend on a stable salary. The idea of working till you're 60 and retiring and living off a pension is kind of outdated. Pension isn't going to last you too long. You're going to need to have investments and income coming in that doesn't relate to you doing work. So even when you get old, you have something to leave for your children. Something you can live off of when you get old. So I think that's what it's trying to introduce. And I think that's a great message to send to the younger generation.
Yeah, well, definitely, definitely. I for sure have to read it so that I have my facts straight and can have a proper debate, because I feel like there is probably a lot to debate in it or argue over. I think in general, like you see, the problem is that, and again, this sort of goes back to the idea of the great word bourgeoisie and proletariat, which is like, sort of the bourgeois being the asset owning class and so forth. Owning assets is what gets you ahead financially. There's no doubt about that. The big problem is that the big issue is that how do you get those assets in the first place? You could buy them certain, as we know,
the idea is like you work your 9 to 5 until you have some assets.
Yeah, that's kind of necessary. Even in the book, they kind of show you that work is kind of the building stone to you building assets. It's not supposed to get you off through life. And I don't think the book would have been as revolutionary as it is if the schools did their job. I don't. If they told you that you could do this, instead of telling you work till 60, get a pension, and then retire.
The tragedy is that if every sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Thank you. So the problem is that if everyone just started like buying assets, prices would inflate like way over value. So that's that could create but I mean, no, I absolutely see the point. All I'm saying, so this is something that I've been thinking about recently. So they say, like, I think because I've been trying to figure out the ever increasing wealth gap. I've been trying to figure it out, and I've heard different ideas. I've heard, technology, hierarchy. Well, the problem with the hierarchy has been becoming increasingly unequal, particularly in like Western consuming countries, and I think that like there are different explanations that you might see like about like technology, or there's been very rapid innovation, and so that innovation has created a lot of concentrated wealth, and that is definitely a large part of it, and certainly one factor. But I think another very big factor is the clear economic concept, which is basically, I mean, talked about by more or less like every foundational economist, whether that be Adam Smith or one before him, I forgot. There are different ones, or even Karl Marx expanded on the idea that all sort of commodities or anything that labor produces has the value of labor embedded in it, right? And so all sort of value in the economy goes back to labor, because in order to produce value, you have to work, whatever that labor may be. And so, but the thing is that that surplus and deficits are created. So basically, the point is that that when you pay for labor less than the value it creates, we could say a deficit for the worker and a surplus for you, right? Where if you pay more and the value is less, that what they produce. So like, for example, take the Nike logo, right? The Nike logo was made by, I'm pretty sure, a lady in, I think, like college or designing school for like $34, right? So her labor was paid for by Nike at $34. That was the cost of her labor.
Mhm.
Now, is that the value of her labor? No. And so that massive amount of value, extra value that wasn't paid for
Wait,
when
if you don't mind me interrupting for a second, do you think she should have paid? She should have been paid more than $34 for the
absolutely
design.
not. Absolutely
Good.
not.
Okay, good.
No.
We're all on the same
On
page.
that we
Yeah,
agree. Okay, on
she
that we
shouldn't.
agree.
Yeah, yeah, she shouldn't have been paid more because you can't calculate value. You can't pay someone for value that they'll create in 20 years. Yeah, yeah, you can't do that because value only exists now, right?
Exactly.
The
Reason
reality of money exists now. Yes. You
the
can't, yeah,
reason the Nike symbol is so famous and valuable now isn't because she drew it up. That's not the reason it's famous. Because the
Mhm.
marketing they put behind it, the
Yes.
products, the
Yes.
quality, the branding, everything about it is what made
Yeah,
the
it's
Nike
really the
logo
branding.
famous.
That's the essence.
The Nike logo could have been a sword. It could have been a plastic bag. It would have been famous because the product. It's not. It's a good logo. I'm not gonna lie, but it could have been so many different things.
Swoosh.
And it's not. She didn't bring the value to it. They brought the value to her product.
but yes, but there's something. We're just talking about logos, which is just one area. There's
Mhm.
something much bigger that oftentimes creates more value than it costs, and that's literature, books, right?
Mm.
I'm sure that this is actually also something that came to mind is that it's not all books,
Kiyosaki's
but
book.
yeah, some books,
I'm joking.
yeah, right. Some books create way more value than they cost. But the thing
Mhm.
is that books can't charge the value that they create because first of all, they don't know a writer doesn't know the kind of value he's going or she's
No,
going to create, right?
the price is determined by only one thing,
Yeah,
though.
sorry.
Price? No, that's my bad. I interrupted you. Go on, go on.
Yeah, and on top of that, as we just established, you can't what is it, assess the value of your labor based off of the value it will create in 10 years. It's just not possible, right? The market doesn't work that way. And the reason that's exactly why some people lose and some people gain. It's based off of that surplus
Yeah.
between the value and the cost, right? That's exactly what it is. But oftentimes that surplus or deficit is gain or loss. It's generally an unrealized gain in the sense that okay, Nike gained the $1 billion or whatever their logo is worth, but the lady that made it or whoever made it just gained the $34, but it's not negative $1 billion, right? It's not like she owns. It's not like she owes because she doesn't owe Nike that money because Nike has the produce of her labor. So
Mhm.
what she already owes has already been paid to Nike through what her labor produced. So
Honestly, everything that you make, the cost depends on one thing, and that's how hard was it to make that thing? How much risk did you take by making that thing, and how easy is it to reproduce? Anybody could make that Nike swoosh that
Mhm.
you can draw it. I can draw it. Everybody here can draw a check sign. You know what we can do though? We can't build a multi-billion-dollar empire around that Nike swoosh.
Absolutely. Yes.
Exactly. They took the risk on buying her branding and turned it into something much bigger, which she couldn't have done. Let's go back in time and give her the Nike logo and see what she would have done with it. Would have thrown it in the trash. It probably gave her more money than it was worth. That man, if you paid me $34 to draw on paper, I would have done it too. It's easier to reproduce. It doesn't take too much effort to do.
Absolutely.
And anybody can do it. Which
Absolutely.
is why
yes.
The other thing that you said about labor being paid too little, right? You said the cost of labor. Sorry.
Yeah, a surplus value, or a surplus value for the one receiving the produce of the labor and a deficit for the laborer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just the same with factory workers. It's the same with take me as I work at Chick-fil-A, right?
Mm-hmm.
I make the sandwiches. The company probably couldn't work without people like me, but I don't expect to get paid more because anybody could do my job for the most part. You just needs 2 hours of training. Why does the person ahead of me get paid more, like the person who owns the place? Because they built the place.
Yeah.
and that's one of the things that I conflict with ideologically with the liberals, which is, oh, increase the minimum wage, increase that. No, you'll get paid according to market value. If
Well,
anybody can do your
yes.
exactly, if anybody
Yeah,
can do your job,
yes.
exactly. Why would I pay you 15 an hour when somebody else is willing to do the exact same thing,
But
same efficiency for $10 an hour or $5 an hour?
yes, but once again, then there's another complexity, which is that the person receiving your deficit, the surplus, if the value you're producing is greater than your cost, is the one receiving it, is that actually what they should receive? The value, like
No,
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 so
you
if
can.
it's no, if they shouldn't be receiving that extra value, the one employing you, then your labor is underpaid.
Okay, how about this? You're saying if the thing that they create is more valuable than how much they're getting paid, they should be paid more, right?
No, like for example, think like we could take a basic example of a slave, right? The
Mhm.
cost of a slave is its purchasing cost plus subsistence minus the market value of any children it produces, right? Because
Mhm.
any children it makes is free to the owner, right?
Mhm.
So more or less that is
Slave economics.
that's yeah, slave economics, yes. And this is the Marx touches on this
Mhm.
with I think he mentions like Aristotle or whatever, but anyways, that's the economics of a slave, right?
Mhm.
That's the cost of a slave, but a slave can produce value far greater. I mean, if a slave is working 16 or whatever hours a day, the value it produces could be far greater. Or well, I said it, sorry, he or she.
Mhm.
Slave is not an it, it's a person.
Mhm.
The value they produce can be far greater than the cost, right? So it's and this surplus value goes to the owner of the slave, right? So it's the same. And now the question is, does the owner of the slave deserve the surplus they're getting? Well, possibly, but again, that's sort of where it becomes complicated, is how much surplus value does the owner deserve? Like at what point does the owner, the value that the owner produces themselves, they're receiving more than that. And the reason why they're receiving that extra is because they own the assets. That's the whole concept of owning a business, is
I
that
mean,
Mhm.
you're able
that
to
all
absorb that
depends on the
surplus,
owner, though.
possibly. Yeah, go
In your
ahead.
in your example of slaves can't leave their place of employment. Well, it's kind of
Yeah.
obvious. But if you're working somewhere else, and that's like it, if you're working somewhere else and you're not getting paid what your value is, you could always leave, work somewhere else, start a bidding war. Which is why I feel like the free market is more valuable than anything that the government could state. The minimum wage, you need to get paid this
But
much. No, the free market will dictate what your value is. For example,
the, yes, you're right. Yes.
take the example of again, me, I work at Chick-fil-A. Let's say I can wrap 700 sandwiches a minute, right?
Mhm.
If I could operate a whole station by myself and they're not willing to pay me more than 14.50 an hour, I could go to another place across the street at Tim Hortons and get paid 17 an hour. Because I could do let's say I can't, but like let's say I could do the job of like 2-3 employees. I'm
Mhm.
gonna demand more pay because they're gonna need to pay less people by having me on that station. So like I said, the free market is always going to determine what your value is. The government
But
can't change that. People can't change that.
Yeah.
And
So when
yeah,
you're actually having a transaction for any reason, as long as it's logical, I mean, humans are emotional creatures, so let's not get into there for now. Let's stick on the logical side. You'll do an interaction because you're going to get more value out of it, right? So you buy an apple because you're hungry and you need something, and that apple is worth more than the $1 that you pay for it at that moment, right? And then the company is they want the dollar more than they want the apple, because they have tons of apples. They don't need apples. They want to get rid of the apples and get money. So it's that transfer of value, and you're getting more value and they're getting more value out of that transaction. and that's the ideal way it goes.
I know, but like
Yes, but it's only ideal.
yeah, in Sebastian's case, I think he's trying to say that what if you get more value from it than you gave the person that's making the apple or
Per se,
whatever,
yeah.
making the apple. In that case, it's not your fault. You paid what they requested for the services. If you profit from it, that's you making a smart investment more than it's them making a bad investment.
Well, yes.
Yeah,
Well,
because as
what
long
I
as
want
yeah,
to-
yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, what I want to say about the free market is that I'm a staunch, support of the free market. And in fact, I think we need more free markets. But the thing is that actually the free market is itself, like anything else, not perfect, which I'm sure you could agree with me. But the problem, like, okay, you said that, yeah, like the free market determines wages and all of that. But it's not exactly true. There are so many complexities. Like, for example, that assumes that there is constantly readily available labor to take on that free market. I'll give my mom as an example, right? She's a forklift operator, but she's getting old, and her company is more or less collapsing. I mean, they've been in collapse for like since the 2008 financial crisis. She doesn't even know how are they still not bankrupt, right? And so and she wants to find another job. Now jobs are available, but she's getting old, she's a woman, and she doesn't have the physical capacity to meet the requirements that many of the jobs offer on the market. So she has to stay with the job that she's currently doing, but she may not be getting paid what she's worth, or she's getting paid what she's worth, but it's definitely not keeping up with inflation. And she can't compete in the rest of the market because she doesn't meet the requirements. So that's why, like, there's not necessarily perfect competition, because to have perfect competition, you sort of have to be working on similar ground.
But okay. This is not towards your mom. This is towards objective point of view
Oh
of
no,
anybody
don't
that's
worry. Yeah,
frustrated, right?
don't worry about it.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
at the same, if you don't bring value to your workplace, or there's somebody that could do your work better at that age, I think that's why you need to start creating your own assets. Moving back to the point that I was making before, because you need to prepare yourself for the time where everybody else can do the job better than you, right? And at that
Well,
point,
actually, yeah, I've seen some of the incomes on the jobs that are better with more requirements. And for their kind of requirements, it's still literally like $19-20 an hour, which is not nearly keeping up with inflation. Like
okay,
inflation
but
is
think about it.
rampant.
How many people could do it? That's the question. How low can they bring the price and then still have people that meet those requirements come for the job interview? That's all they're concerned about. It's not making sure that somebody gets
Oh,
enough money to live.
yes. No, Yasu, yeah, you're
Mm.
absolutely right. You have a point. But so I want to get to my main point with this, because yes, I mean, we can talk like all the time about, yeah, the free market and its issues, or how well it works, because the thing is that this argument, or not argument, this debate, or this sort of these complexities would have had are very much applicable to an economy that cycles within itself, right? Like, for example, that's what Canada, America, all these countries used to have, I would say, before the 70s, right? Where things were produced in the country, consumers bought things produced in their own country, and so forth, right? And so there, the free market mechanisms and have little distortion and can work very well, right? With these small government policies and so forth. The debate now, we can say, is as it regards to, and that's what I want to get to, is mass consumption and consumption of goods produced by labor in countries that are very poor, right? As for example, we saw with China, and until now, but it's not just China. I mean, China is the largest producer. I mean, as an individual country, they're the most notable example, but there are other examples as well, right? This has been driven by, political interest, economic interest, but I believe that this state of consumption has completely distorted classical economic theory in many ways. Not all classical economic theory, but it sort of created many, new categories of economic thinking. And but the problem with these distortions is that these distortions almost only work for the wealthiest, or what we could call the bourgeois. Now, why? Because it goes back to the concept of value with labor. Uh, right now, laborers in, for example, China, are producing the same quantity of value as our own laborers, let's say 100 years ago, but for 10 times less the cost. So all of that surplus value ends up going to the owners of that labor. And the owners is the one, not even 1%, right? Less than that. And
Yeah, but don't you think that's
else,
necessary?
yeah, everyone else is left into a massive wealth gap. This generally explains why, if you look at the US pre 1980, the concept of a major wealth gap didn't really exist. Incomes would go up 10%, the stock market would go up 10%, and CEOs' compensation would go up 10%. Everything went up largely in sync with each other. In fact, some years the stock market would go down by 2%, and yet incomes would increase by 5%, right? Things moved very much in sync with each other. That today we have a completely out of sync economy, where the wealthiest class, or the asset owners, the bourgeois, however you wish to call them, right, have seen their wealth grow exponentially. Number one, because of the massive innovation, technology, massive wealth growth, plus the massive surplus of value that is created out of cheap labor, rather, producing things or produce that are valued much greater, or cost much greater than the labor, right? So that labor is replacing labor that used to exist here, right? Am I lagging?
So so we're kind of talking about the new world economy here, like
I think
I just wanted to say something about what he just said, right?
yeah.
I think the time that he was referring to of the CEOs and the workers having the same increase in pay died in the 30s, basically. During the recession, the CEOs just started to buy back their own stocks, and they built wealth instead of income. For example, your CEOs don't make billions upon billions. That's not how it works. They make what, $3-4 million. The rest of their money they get from their stocks.
Yeah.
Which started back in the late 30s, mid to late 30s. So that time was already gone by then. So like by the 80s, by the 90s, there was already a massive wealth gap where the richest of the richest were already up in the clouds, building Dubai and shit like that. And the second thing he was referring to, which is in China, where they're creating way more valuable things that they're getting paid for, I think that's kind of necessary, because if you try to make a Nike bag here, it's gonna cost $700, man. Because here we have these labor laws and this minimum wage, and the free market is more restricted here, in which you have to get paid a certain amount to do any type of work. So if we brought an iPhone here, or a bag or shoes, the cost is gonna rise by like 700%, because you have to account for the employee costs that they have to pay here, because the living standards are also higher here. So they go to China and get cheaper labor. I feel like that's necessary to our, like I said, it's necessary to the economy, because we couldn't be able to afford anything if that wasn't so.
And that just might be the problem. Like this codependence created by globalism kind of is now breaking our economy.
Guys, can you imagine how distorted our thinking has become? Wait, am I lagging?
A little bit.
No, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, just the video. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, can you imagine how distorted our thinking has become, to a point where we can say that oh, we can produce it for $300, but if we produce it here, it'll cost 700, and that justifies the current system. I think
Mm.
yeah, I think it's completely distorted. That does not at all justify the current
I
system.
don't think it's about justifying. I think it's more about necessity. Because
Uh,
look,
But we don't
every
need these things. That's the problem with consumerism.
yeah,
We're just
oh
taking
we
and taking. It's like you don't need to do
yeah,
that. You can
but
you
yeah,
that
can
like
make
that also
stuff
goes to
yourself.
that also goes to very important things that we need right now. For example, what are you talking on? You're talking on a laptop, right? Both you guys,
No,
right?
it's like a cultural like a problem. That's what I'm talking about. It's just like, yes, okay, maybe there's the certain things that you do need, but people are too busy buying the shit that they don't need. Just like in a realistic scenario, we could be doing much better. We could be doing much better. We have all this potential, but we're not reaching it because we're kind of just settling for, oh, okay, I'm just gonna like, oh, yeah, buy these toys. Okay, now I don't have any money left over. Okay, now
yes.
like,
But that's a problem with the mentality of civilization right now, which I hope we're gonna advance out of, or more likely it's gonna get worse as time goes on.
Um,
But
it's
we
not a
need
problem. So yeah, sorry, go ahead, sorry.
don't worry. It's consumerism is necessary for the economy to function. If we stop buying shit that we don't need, the economy is gonna collapse 100%.
yeah. So in a way that might be a good thing for a kind of a rebirth if we've come to a point of no return, which I'm not sure if we're there or not. Maybe we are, maybe we're not. But
So
if things are that bad, then maybe we do need that reset button. But
But do you think the struggle we're gonna go through to reset the economy is worth resetting the economy?
well, that's what I'm saying. Like if it has to happen, it will happen. You know.
The only way I'm saying this from like what I've seen before, right? The only way the current economical system is going to change is if countries like China and Thailand and all these developing countries kind of develop and then learn to limit
sorry guys, I just
outside.
have to sorry, I just have to leave for a moment. I'll be back.
For sure. Yeah, I have to leave in like 5 minutes myself. I have to go to practice, man. But
Okay.
until then, is when those countries kind of develop and then start inputting employee protection for their own citizens, right? Until that time comes, there's going to be people who are willing to take advantage of it because those people need work and these people are willing to provide it at a very, very cheap cost.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't blame the CEOs for what they're doing. I wish I could, but I can't.
Yeah.
Philosophically, because would you, for example, if someone told me, Yasu, you can have this iPhone for $9,000. It was made, but the workers were paid well. They live in nice houses. The company is eco-friendly. And somebody said, "Oh, Yasu, you can have this phone for $90. It was made in China. This kid died making it." Man, I'm not paying no $9,000 for an iPhone. I'm taking that $70 because at the end of the day, there's things we can afford and things we can't afford.
Mm-hmm.
Our luxury, which is like our technology, our phones, our Wi-Fi, comes with the cost of their displeasure. You know what I'm saying?
And
So
yeah,
the
that's
only way
the
to fix
tricky thing with systemic change. It's like, how do you actually go about doing that? And the
like
only
the
way to
countries manning up, the other countries need to stand up and say, which is why, and by the way, that's not gonna happen between you and me. Because you're a Muslim, right?
yeah.
So you know the story of Muammar Gaddafi.
Yes.
Man stood up. They took him down. For without any proof of anything. He stood up and said, we need to stand up against these Western civilizations. They're taking advantage of us, our people, our resources. And what did they do to him, bro? They turned his whole country against him and killed him in the most painful way imaginable. And then they said, whoops, he had nothing after all. Our bad. He didn't have any weapons. He wasn't creating nothing. Our bad. And other countries in Armageddon. So these powerful countries have such a grip on the other countries that there's nothing you can change. They'll always take advantage of the weaker. They'll always go there for cheaper labor, for cheaper resources and everything. I don't think there's nothing you could do against that. It's just hope that times advance with it, because they're just too powerful to be stopped at this point, especially countries like China.
Wait, what exactly is too powerful to be stopped?
these massively powerful countries that take advantage of cheaper labor in other countries,
Yeah.
cheaper resources in other countries.
So yeah, I know Sebastian has some like really cool thoughts on that, but what I'd say is like just to finish up my point on systemic changes, has to be built on the individual level, because if you have some sort of awakening kind of in a system, and like let's look at the LGBTQ movement, right? It was built, it it was some people were getting bullied, and then they decided to stand up and they took action and they took consistent action. And I mean, of course, there's probably some lobbying involved too, but
It's not. I think they were weaponized by the government. To be honest with you, so the liberals were losing back in the 80s, as you probably know. They were getting slapped up. So what they did was they tried to appeal to a disenfranchised group of people, right?
mm,
Which is one of the reasons I hate the liberals. They try to take advantage of blacks and different religions. Everybody. They'll tell you, we're gonna help you. We're gonna do this for
get
you.
the people in
Give
fear.
you
Yeah,
exactly, and
100%.
that's what they did with the LGBTQ community. They needed those votes. They loved those votes. So they said, you know what? Those conservatives right there, they want to kill you guys. And they said, just vote for us. So it's not that a couple people got bullied and they stood up. It's just if they get between you and me, the idea of gays and shit has existed since ancient Greece, since way
Yeah,
before our time.
yeah,
The reason that they're
between you and
standing up,
me, and then I'm gonna post this on YouTube after.
it's fine. The reason that it's standing up now is because the liberals or government organizations in general have found a way to weaponize it to gain votes. And once they gain votes, they'll just throw you a little cookie, be like, we'll legalize this, we'll legalize that. Now you guys can do whatever the shit you want. Like, we already got our votes.
Guys, it feels like I just leave for like a couple seconds and like things go off the rails. Like I have to
Dynamic, man.
Yeah.
put things in order. Yeah. No, I think well, because I mean, yeah, soon we'll be wrapping up, I guess.
Yeah, I
I
just
feel,
love for you to talk about, Yasu was talking about how he doesn't think that, he thinks we're going to keep exploiting, kind of doing whatever system we were doing with China. And he said he doesn't think that they have the balls to stand up. I know you had some really cool thoughts on China. So I just love to hear that again.
Yes, well, yeah, I think no, well, what I said about is that yes, there's no way like to stand up to it. So I think like with the new world economy thing, I sort of talked about it not like in a new world like globalism, but like sort of China's new perspective on the world economy. And so I think that there's still a lot to understand about China, about sort of their goals with their population growth and common prosperity and so forth. I think there's still a lot we have to understand about those sort of economics. I talked about how we might have an economy in the future, if China succeeds, where recessions won't start in China because China is not going to be a reserve currency consumer country, but instead would start because in the countries that China has massive investment interests, because it's fundamentally those countries that will power China's continued economic growth. Without those countries, and so basically what's happening now is that China is laying the government foundation for these countries, like the infrastructure, all of this, and the plan is for the private sector to follow. So the idea is that once the government sector completes their projects, their ideas, the private sector will follow with their own naturally, not necessarily because the government is forcing them to do it, but because investors, private interests will see the financial opportunity in these countries now that infrastructures exist. So I mean, there's a lot of interesting things that could be said about it. There may be some things that I don't have at the top of my head at the moment, but I mean, like you have that, you have like currently we follow a globalist system where like we don't really have globalism. We simply have a Western centric consumer
economy versus exporter economy dilemma,
Yeah.
where consumer economies basically will consume anything from anywhere, especially if it's made by cheap labor, right? As yeah, like even for example, you would be you would be amazed to find out that even for example, India has a trade. I'm pretty sure I double checked it, but I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure even India has a trade surplus, or yeah, I mean, well, the United States has a trade deficit with India, where America imports more from India than
Mhm.
they export. And this really doesn't make much sense because India doesn't have many things that they have to export. Yet
Uh,
America finds a way to buy from them because again, that's sort of the globalist, political economic dilemma between countries. All right. But what's interesting is that like some will say, or like you might see, or you might question how like, oh, how do countries like, for example, okay, Japan and Australia are reserve currency countries, right? Yet they don't consume. They export more than they consume. Well, this is sort of, and yet they have, all, and yet they are very connected with consumer countries. This is sort of the sort of the complexity between like Western consumer countries and exporter countries that are reserve currency countries as well, is that they're very connected with each other, right? There's a complete mutual relationship with each other. This is exactly why you can see with Japan, like Japan is a part of the G7, right? I'm pretty sure I'm thinking of the right thing, the G7. But Japan is not culturally fundamentally a Western country, right? They're an Eastern country, and they've
mhm.
generally always been an Eastern country. But so you sort of have this very unique dilemma. But this is all a creation of the globalist system. Now, and the thing is that people think that, oh, like China would want to go against the globalist system. China only plays with the globalist system entirely because it's what built their wealth.
Mhm.
If you see, like China, I'm pretty sure until now pegs their currency to the US dollar. Again, this is because China acknowledges that just like they're very difficult to bring down, America's difficult to bring down too. And they entirely rely on American consumption. Now, they're trying to change this with now transitioning from globalism to what I call what is it? Global industrialization. Yeah, industrialization, where sort of like these initiatives to industrialize the world, as like in these really poor countries as in Africa or Pakistan or the Middle East, South America, whatever, wherever it may be, Sri Lanka, right? Sri Lanka. So yeah, I mean, you have all these industrialization initiatives now. Definitely there are, as I mentioned, there are concerns of like running out of resources or energy, but
Mhm.
what I've been learning about more is the fact that actually we still have a lot of resources to discover. Like most of the world is undiscovered, so we might be able to sort of make up for that lack of resources in other ways. And on top of that, you also have the factor of like energy. Now that the problem of energy can actually easily be fixed by what is it, renewables, and more like renewable, green, we can say, energy, because it's renewable, right? It can be produced in much larger quantities and on demand than, like, for example, oil or
Well,
coal.
whoa,
Well,
what
yeah.
sustainable resources are you actually talking about?
Well, I mean, whatever it may be. Like, I know that there are production limits, obviously,
Mhm.
right? Like, you can't just produce it. But, like, for example, I mean, the things that we currently have, like with nuclear,
Mhm.
solar, right, wind, water. I forgot, the different names, but I mean,
Yeah,
we have
nuclear
different
is probably the
kinds.
biggest one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nuclear is probably, and the thing is that we can build so many of these different plants. Like we have so much
Mhm.
unused space where we can build these things on, right? So
Oh yeah,
the
in
capacity,
Canada,
yeah,
man, like look at
yeah,
all the unused space.
yeah. I mean, yeah, no, it's true. Like, yes, there's a
Biggest
lot of
country,
unused
like one of the
space.
biggest countries in the world, yet
Yeah.
like Most of
Yeah.
the space is unused.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And so that's why, yeah. And so that's why there's so much production, like capacity, production possibility.
Yeah.
And also I think another thing that you may be like that, you said like, oh, like interesting thing. I think you're also thinking about how I said that, like, it's a catch, right? It's a catch where there are multiple catches where, either way you go, you sort of end up with the same result, right? So like, for example, with the renewables, like transition to renewable will make like consumer countries more energy independent, but at the same
Mhm.
time it will also make all of the poor countries that rely on energy exports even more vulnerable and even more needing of China's industrialization goals, so of their alliances. So I mean, that's one catch, and you have other catches like, I mean, as I said, like there may be certain, like I can't, because I remember when we talked about it, like it was really hyped up, and I had like, all the ideas were like spewing out. Yeah, because kind of I don't really have all of the ideas like, at the top of my head, but I mean, like, yeah, they're either like the point is that there are multiple factors that sort of say that no matter what happens, the end result is going to be the same. Actually, let me see. I think I sent you a text message, right, about one of them. Let me see, what was it?
Probably did.
Yeah.
Linked to one of your essays.
Yeah. Well, yeah, not well, it's sort of like an extra um oh yes, the concept of like Western diversity, right? So yeah, how Western countries rely, or Western countries also that happen to be reserve currency consumer countries, right? Heavily rely on immigration, right? Immigration, us as children of immigrant parents, our parents, and so forth, to keep population growth increasing, right? And we can clearly see how actually our generation and our children have a dramatically lower birth rate, right? A birth rate very much comparable to more per se native Canadians, right? Because again, it's not, again, birth rate doesn't really have to, as I discussed, birth rate is very complex, right? The topic of the birth rate and increase and decrease in population is very complex in the sense that there's really no government policies that can increase or decrease population. Population increases and decreases often because of factors that actually are almost entirely out of the force of anyone, right? Or the decision of anyone. But so I said about the population thing, right? If China starts to not only increase the wealth of these countries, but also increase their prospects, right? Less and less people will be willing to move out. So if you have less and less people, and China sort of disables these different Western mechanisms that allows for poverty and migration to continue, right? As the different mechanisms that are associated with keeping these countries corrupt, keeping these countries poor, and other mechanisms like I mean, again, like there are different ones, but I mean, these different sort of mechanisms that influence it. Sanction mechanisms. Like for example, America heavily sanctioned Iran, but China not too long ago made a $400 billion deal with Iran, like a massive package of like economic deals, different ties. And what's even odd about that is that, okay, America sanctions Iran, and anyone that tries to deal with Iran is right away, sanctioned. But why didn't America sanction China when they made this massive deal with Iran? Well, this is because, once again, America doesn't really operate on rules. They operate on, they get to choose what happens or what the rules are. But that's for another time, right? That's where it has its own complexity.
Right.
So So anyways, I mean, the point with it is, that sort of the immigration and sort of the necessity for refugees and so forth will decrease dramatically in these countries, right? More and more people will be wanting to stay in these countries rather than leave, and more talents, educated individuals will want to actually stay in their own country and build their own country because the prospects are better rather than going somewhere else, like to the West, for example. And so this way, the West will eventually lose complete control. They will lose their control over this system, and they wouldn't be capable of pulling the strings anymore. The strings that have kind of kept our economy going for these last decades. So yeah, so you have these sort of catches that no matter what happens, you end up in the same trap.
Yasu, do you have any thoughts on that? That's it's crazy.
I mean, I agree with most of the things he said, except for the part where he said the birth rate, the population growth and decline he said it's not control. Correct me if I'm wrong. You said the government doesn't really get to influence that much.
Well, they influence it without the knowledge that they influence it. Like, I mean, if
you
we're
forget about China, my friend.
What?
You forget about China?
You're talking about the one birth policy. Well,
yeah.
Again, these are, yes, it can be influenced through force, absolutely, and that's true. But again, those kind of things, like what's a lot more difficult to influence is actually increasing the population, right? Like slowing down like you can force the population, right, not to have children.
You can increase the population for sure.
Well, you can't really force people to start having children.
You could incentivize it, right? You could incentivize the people in poverty by giving them free money, kind of.
Yeah, but governments have tried that.
It's interesting that you said that. I forgot what country it was. I forgot what country. A country was, I think it was either Russia or some country somewhere around there, right? Incentivizing families to have kids and they get a free fridge. Something like
it was so they can put all the food they need to feed their children with.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, or
yes. You don't even have to go the biological route. You could go the route of Canada. When they're looking for talent here, they're looking for people to take over some jobs. They just open up the immigration route. They'd let a lot more people in. So I feel like the government does have a lot of control on population growth and population decline, as more than we think they do. On that note, by the way, guys, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to call it a wrap. I have to get to my practice. This was very productive, and I look forward to being on here again.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to thank you for being on here, and I also wanted to plug my discussion group. It's called Fight Club. Happens every Saturday, usually in the evening. So I'll have them 7:30 to we'll see how late it goes, but usually goes on for 2 hours. And we have amazing conversations like this, and I'd love to invite you there as well.
Well, it was great meeting you, Sebastian, by the way. It might be the most intelligent person I've met yet. You and Adam are definitely up there, man.
Let's keep in touch, boys.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I just wanted to say, because we're just about to go, I just wanted to say that, I think if we do another podcast, I think it would be even better, even more productive if we plan an agenda.
Yeah, for sure.
So like we have exact, not necessarily we write our exact points down, but sort of exact things that we wanted to structure to it. So that's even more productive. It's not sort of just sort of in the open.
Ramble. I understand. Just tell me the topic ahead of time so I could just prepare a couple topics. And we can have a topic discussion later. Next week.
Yeah, and now I'm motivated to kind of read up on investing too, and some get some more knowledge before I come back on here.
For sure.
That's what we're here for. Inspire each other.
Exactly. That's awesome. On that note, take care, guys. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. See you, man.
You too. See you.
Bye.
Thank you.